Okay, so today I want to talk about probably the one thing that everyone, when they're starting special effects, gets their hands on, and that is latex. This is some fun stuff. You can do some really fun stuff with it. Um, so I'm going to go over what types of latex they are, because there are different types, and you'd use these things for different situations. So there is balloon rubber latex. And again, think of a rubber balloon. This is very thin and runny, and it shrinks and becomes very elastic after it's dried. And it is great for making bald caps. This can be used on the skin as well as be colored with cosmetic grade pigments or food safe pigments in food coloring. But the predominantly use for this is for bald caps, because not only can you get really thin edges with this latex, you can also build it up to be very thick where you'd need it the most right here. And that's why it's used mostly for bald caps. Now, this latex has so many different names depending on where you are. It's called slip, brush, dip, slush, and casting latex. This is a thickened latex, and it's not as elastic as the balloon rubber latex, but all latex is pretty stretchy. This is often used in plaster molds to make masks. I wouldn't use this on the skin. Okay. I'm going to send you, because I don't use this on the regular, but my friend Alan at Stilt Beast Studios, go check him out. He makes masks and other creepy things. He's just done some feet and hands and all those things. And he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this type of latex. And he is more than willing to share that knowledge with anyone that asks. So I will leave a link in the cards. I don't know if it's this side, or and in the box of knowledge. So go check him out. And if you have any questions about that type of latex, Alan's your man. And then we come to liquid latex. This can be used on the skin, clearly. I just want to say right now that always do a patch test when you are working with latex, because it is a very common allergy. All right, so any type of latex you're using, whether it's the balloon or always do a patch test, whether it's you or someone you're working on. So continuing on, the liquid latex, it is used on the skin for creating a whole bunch of things. Old age makeup, cuts and burns, wounds, zombie skin, buildups, and out of kit makeup. This can be colored the same thing as the balloon rubber latex. Latex is really hard to color if you're not used to it. And the reason is, when you are coloring the latex itself, it's almost pastel in color. Like if you're doing a red, it's never going to be red until it dries. It's going to look pink until it dries, and then it will be a red color. So it's hard to gauge, if you haven't done it before, how to color it and how to know, okay, well, is this going to be the color of red that I want? So that's something, if you do plan on doing that, has its benefits, because if you already have colored the latex and you're going to use that with corresponding makeup, it's so much easier to blend in and saves you a lot of time on the makeup end. So this is just one thing that you're going to have to play around with to know how to color latex, but know that it will almost look pastel in color while it's wet, and it will not be the solid color until it fully dries. So if this gets into your hair, you're going to have a nice waxing job. All right. It's very, very, very hard to get out of your hair. You can with some baby oil, just putting it out there. If you get this in your clothes, again, very hard to get out of clothes. So be mindful of what you're wearing when you're working with latex. creating textures is so fun. And this is where the creativity, just use your imagination. My favorite things to use for creating different textures, and why would you want to do this? Well, if you want to make different wounds, some rotting skin, mixing latex with different textures creates some really amazing things. I absolutely love coffee for scabs or road rash. It looks very realistic. And again, the coffee, it's naturally brown. So you do have that rusty color in old scabs. So if you put red over that, it looks absolutely amazing. And that, again, helps with the makeup. You're not putting as much makeup on, and it saves you time. Oatmeal's great. Rice is great. Both those are great for rotting skin and zombie applications. Probably the oddest one that makes really good wet scabs is dehydrated onions. It doesn't smell the greatest, but looks absolutely amazing. So if you're trying to even make some, blood that's on a prop or whatever that is, and you don't have a big one, if you take latex, put a little red in it, and then throw some dehydrated onions in it, and you got some really amazing, scabby, nasty, blotchy blood, and it's great. A very old trick is using plastic wrap and putting latex over that for zombie skin. This has been used in so many old school zombie movies. And also creating texture where you put the latex down and even just imprint that. It's also used with gelatin as well, this technique. You can use, probably one of my favorite ways when I was starting out was using cotton. It's almost like paper mache. You get the cotton saturated and you can mold that like clay and paper mache and all those things, and it blends so well. So cotton is absolutely amazing, and this is why I like it better than tissue. Even though tissue is made out of, fibrous, the true cotton just molds a lot better. And the last one that is used a lot is yarn. You can make amazing veins, and it's so effective. If you don't even create all these textures and you just have some veins, you mix in some blue with some red veins, and it's a very effective, fast way to do a really cool special effects makeup. So play with it. It's endless to create textures. Grab some stuff around your house. Almost anything would make a good texture with latex. So if you can think, okay, this would be good, try it out. These are just a couple of things. And again, you can create some amazing things just by looking around your house. Look in the kitchen. That's the best place to look for things. That's how I discovered the coffee and all these other. I'm like, what would this look like? So play with it. This is the fun part about special effects and creating and learning all these different things. So aside from burns and cuts and old ages and all those things and creating textures, latex can also be used, and liquid latex, it can be used in pre-made molds. You can find on the internet, or you can make them yourself, silicones made out of mold. You can make mold out of plaster. That's probably the cheapest way to do it. But it's not like making a mask. Making a mask, you pour the latex into this mold and you let it set. You keep the latex in it. And it'll create these layers for, I don't know how long you let it set. That would definitely be an Ellen question. But you let it set and then you pour all the latex out and it leaves this layer. You have your mask. Okay, liquid latex is not like that. And I see a lot of people who try and put it into a mold and do that technique. If it's too thick, it's not going to dry. And in order to do and make these ahead of time, to do pre-made prosthetics from a mold with liquid latex, you have to do thin layers and let them dry in between each other. So it takes time, but it can be done. And the result is really, really nice. So again, if you do very thin layers, maybe use a hair dryer in between to speed that process up. But you have to dry each layer in between. It can't be wet in between, and then do another layer until it's built up to where you can get that out of the mold. You can also mold latex with clay. If you don't have a mold, you don't have access, you don't know how to sculpt a mold, you don't know how to create a mold, you can go to your craft store, go and get some clay, sculpt something, and it's the same technique. Now, don't use the hair dryer because you can melt the wax or the clay, sorry, unless it has a cool setting. And even then, be careful because it still can melt if it's, every hair dryer is different. But it's the same thing. You create very small layers over that sculpt that you just did, and then you've just created a prosthetic. So those are other ways to use liquid latex, is in pre-made molds or making a clay mold. And you can make these ahead of time, make them for haunts. If you're having a bunch of friends over for Halloween, this is a fun thing to have pre-made prosthetics that you've made from liquid latex. And a lot of people like this too. So aside from the molds, you can also make, let's say you don't want to put it on, you want to pre-make and not put it on your skin, which, hey, play with it, put it on your skin, have fun with it. But if you want to pre-make and you don't have molds, you can get a plate, get some plexiglass, get, something that the latex you can put down on, and you can use the cotton technique. You can use pre-make some prosthetics and pull them up, and then you have them. And keep in mind, all latex sticks to itself. It's very sticky, and all of it needs to be powdered. You don't want to wreck all your work, whether it's you created something, you're making it out of the mold, or just in general, I've seen people pull up latex and it sticks to themselves and I can't get it unstuck. And that's kind of latex. So always powder on top before pulling, whether it's a mold, whether it's, off of, you're pre-making it on a surface, always powder on the top first and then pull up and add powder as you're pulling. So you can pre-make a lot of prosthetics for Halloween or whatever event, or let's say you want to go make a film with your friends or whatever the case is, you can pre-make those ahead of time. Another way of using latex is using latex paste. And this is kind of the same concept of the cotton buildup. Is you take latex, mix it with a flour powder or whatever, and create a paste out of that. And that can be mold to anything. Now these take a lot longer to dry because you're going to have latex and powder together that's thicker in some areas. So this does take longer to dry, but you can create a whole bunch of things way ahead of time, even if you don't have the other things to make the textures. So this also is good for covering edges or big gaps. I always reference this to what I use Bondo for professional prosthetics. So if you have like the really, really cheap plastic prosthetics, that Walmart sells, you can make those look really good with this paste. Because those things don't have good edges on them, and that's the dead giveaway. But with this, when you put them on the skin and then you cover that up with that little latex paste, you really don't even realize. So it can be great for covering edges or big gaps, to use this latex paste. I will leave a recipe down below for the latex paste. So if you want to try that out, have fun with it. It's fun stuff to make all different things. And with this, you can also make masks if you don't have a mold. You can go and get a mask, one of those plastic masks from the craft store, and sculpt it on that. If you don't have a face cast of your face, go get the $1.99, the cheap with the really funky string in the back, the elastic string, and it's the ugly plastic, masks. Go and get that. Get one of those and sculpt a mask on that. And then you can create a mask without the molds. So this technique is probably one of the most versatile ways of using liquid latex. So let's see. There are so many brands that make latex. There's probably most known as the theatrical companies. Ben Nye, Mayron, Krylon. Then there is, every makeup supply makes their own, like Monster Makers and Nigel's and Elcone. And so I will leave, again, all those down below. I don't recommend buying the Halloween store liquid latex, that stuff that has been watered down and added a lot of ammonia to it. And on top of that, that's more expensive than actually getting a really good latex. I have found anyway, from the places that I get mine from. So this is just probably the most fun product that most people just absolutely love in special effects. Latex is not an adhesive, I will say that. Is it sticky? Yes. Does it stay on the skin for a while? Yes. But I wouldn't rely on that for hours and hours and hours of a prosthetic staying on. So know that if it's something that you need temporary in a pinch, it could work. But I will say that. So have fun with this. It's one of those things you can create so many different things. And I have fun with it. I've made masks, I made appliances, it's still to this day something that I play with, because I don't use it too much in the pro makeup world, just because the reason why it fell out of the industry was a lot of allergies to it. So, and then with silicones and gelatin, these are appliances that don't take a lot of time to dry or cure, and you can make multiples way faster. But still, liquid latex is a fun way to get into special effects, and it's fun to see what people create from all of that. So this is the latex bit, and I hope you guys are doing well. I hope this was some type of educational and you've learned something from. So another technique that you can use latex for is called foaming latex. Now, I'm putting this here, but it is a more advanced technique. And unfortunately, you need tools dedicated only to this. All right, so foaming latex is where you take a latex, a foaming agent, mix them together. So you will need a mixer just for this process. You cannot use this for your food once you've used it for this process, because those chemicals will leach into your food and they are toxic. You will need a dedicated oven, and a lot of people go and get these portable ovens and will use those, but you do need only a dedicated oven and mixer, just to this process in order to do it. But the reason why people do this process is you take the latex, and when you foam it, it gets very light and elastic. Well, not elastic, but flexible. And so this makes appliances very, very light. And they're fun to wear, they're fun to make, they're fun to work with. So, but again, it's something that takes a little time, It's definitely a learning curve because you have a certain amount of time where this foam and the latex has to mix a certain amount of time, and then once it gets to a certain stage, the gelling stage, that's when you take it and put it into your mold and put your mold in, and then you bake the mold, and that's essentially foaming latex. So again, that's a more advanced technique, but we're talking all the latex things. So I thought I'd put that out there, and someone might be interested in it. So, alrighty, foaming latex. So there are alternatives to latex. If you do, like I had said, latex is there's a high allergy to latex. A lot of people are allergic to it. So what are your options? I think the main thing that people do, and I would not recommend this, even if it says non-toxic, don't put glue on your face. Okay? I've seen this so many times. People are like, well, I can use it. It's non-latex. It says non-toxic. So there are a lot of things that are natural in the world and are not, supposedly not good for you. So alternatives. There is a product called Watermelon, and this can be used any way that latex is. All of the options in a mold, in a paste, foaming it, all those ways this you can use. I will leave a link again to that. It kind of is the same. It looks runny just like latex. I've never seen it come in different colors. I have only ever seen it come in like the clear color, even though it looks white. So it can be colored just like latex. So there is alternatives. And then if you get further into special effects makeup, gelatin's a good alternative as well to latex. Now you can foam gelatin. There are ways of doing that, but it's not going to react the same as latex. So, but it can be used with people who do have an allergy to latex. And I have done that before, where I had a client who was allergic to latex, and I had to create special prosthetics for her that were just gelatin. So I think that covers everything. I will leave links below to all of the things in the box of knowledge. It doesn't seem like it, but it's a lot of information, I know, and it would be interesting to see your guys' work and what you do. So, liquid latex, fun. Go play with it, have a blast, and be creative. This is a fun process, and you can make a myriad of things with latex. So, all right, guys, I hope you are doing great wherever you are in the world. I hope this was helpful at any point during this video, and go have fun with it. All right, bye, guys. I'll see you next time. All right, guys, I will see you next time. Be good, be safe, be kind to each other. Bye.
So the one thing that I want to mention, I'm going to leave in some a clip that went bad yesterday, because when you do special effects makeup and you get so used to wearing it, you almost forget you're wearing it. And sometimes, well, there will become a time where you walk out the door and don't realize that you have it on. That happened to me last night when I didn't realize that the audio and all the video was going bad. I went out to go see some of my friends at the bonfire, and I happened to still have a nice latex wound on my leg. And when I went to go cross my legs and rest my ankle up on my knee, well, one of my friends said, oh my God. And they started freaking out. I'm like, oh, sorry, forgot to take that off. This will happen, and it has happened so many times to me doing special effects. So just know at some point in time, you're gonna forget that you did something and you forgot to remove it, or something of that nature, or you just get so comfortable in the makeup, meaning for a zombie run, I always do like a really elaborate zombie makeup, and I went to go get gas, and I'd already been wearing it because I do makeup for others, you know, that time. So I get up really, really early, or just don't go to bed and do my makeup. Well, I got up, went to go do somebody else's makeup, and full on, just full face of prosthetics, costume, whole 9 yards. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta get gas, and I'm at the gas station. I can't figure out what everyone is just freaking out, and what's going on. Why are they, person fell off their bike, and some person just looking at me strange, like, everyone's losing their minds. And I completely like forgot, because it's so natural to me. And when you do makeup on, you know, for special effects and you test things out, you don't always have a model, you test it on yourself. And so I went in to go pay for my gas, and this lady, the lady that went to go pay, oh, she was just alarmed. But it will occasionally happen to you where you forget that you're wearing that makeup and think it's your regular old face, and get some really strange reactions, or freak your friends out when you're at the bonfire and you have this huge latex wound on your leg that they are saying that you need medical attention for. So, all right, guys, I will talk to you later, and I am editing the video right now, so hopefully everything works out. And I haven't gotten any of the videos yet. I've just been putting the insert stuff in yet. So, all right, bye. Now, true story, when you do special effects makeup, sometimes you forget you do things. And you'll have people questioning if you're okay. For instance, regular feet. I'm not trying to get foot fetishing or anything like that, but when you've gone to a bonfire to, you know, be with your friends, and you forget, you have that on your ankle. Yeah. You'll forget that you're doing some weird things, and you'll forget about them and go out like this. So, hazardous tip, when you do special effects makeup, you'll probably do something like this, and your friends will ask you if you're okay, because you clearly have a wound on your ankle. Alright guys, take care. Don't know if you can see me, but you do some weird things when you do special effects, like going out to a bonfire with a wound on your ankle and not realizing it. Alright, bye. Okay, so we are back. I just wanted to show you from the last project, well, from last night that didn't make it to Friday. These are the textures we're going to go over while playing with liquid latex. This was a prosthetic we made last night. 2 different versions, one from a silicone mold and one from just clay. This is just yarn, coffee. This is actually molding cotton balls, and this is oatmeal. So this was from last night's video. Oops, sorry. Last night's video. And I have pictures I will put into that are close-ups where you can really see the textures. And then These are the prosthetics. And I may turn this light on because it looks like I'm casting a shadow. Trying to get it so you guys can really see. And then, oops, this guy's upside down. So, I'm going to show you how to make all these with some liquid latex. So, excuse the mess, but this is what we're going to start with. So, if you want to see how to make these, keep watching. Okay, first off, you can do a lot of things with latex. Today we are going to play with textures. I'm going to show you how to mold some things. Now this is just a sheet of plexiglass, and I don't fool around. I got 3 different projects on here, so you'll have to excuse that. I'll show you at the end, but please just ignore the clay sculptures. But you can do this on, you can buy plexiglass, you don't have to. On here, I just sculpted on a plate. So pick whatever you need to sculpt on. That's fine. Now, what we're going to start with is, because it's going to take the longest time, this is a silicone mold that I made. And you can put latex into a mold, but this is where people go wrong with it. They treat it as if it's a mold for a mask. What do I mean by that? So I mean, people will just really put a lot of latex in that. It will fill the whole thing, and it's really thick. Well, latex takes a long time to dry, especially liquid latex. A lot of them don't have thickeners like casting latex, which is used to make masks. And when you make masks, you have a mold, you pour latex into it, and you let it sit, and it eventually makes these layers of latex, and that's how you get a mask. This is not how this works with liquid latex. Okay, you have to, when you're doing any type of molds, you have to do layers, light layers, powder, but you have to let the layers dry in between each layer. So you'd layer it, powder it, layer it, and powder it. If you use a good latex, you only need about 2 or 3 layers, and that's it. So we're going to start with this one, because it's going to take the longest to kind of dry. So what you're going to need is a liquid latex. You're going to need your, well, a sponge, okay? Your liquid latex. I'm using the Ben Nye one today. And because this one is a thicker consistency, it's really good. It dries fairly fast. And I find that, again, with good latex, not the Halloween stuff, it is better. It doesn't have, it's not watered down. And I only need 2 layers with this one. If I was to do Halloween, you'd probably have to do about 5-6 layers just to get a prosthetic. So, this, and because this is a bigger mold, I'm going to, just because I have experience in doing this, I am going to pour a little latex in here because it's bigger. And that's about it. It's not huge. That's not a lot for this big. Now, I don't have big hands, but I think majority of us that play with makeup are familiar with a color wheel. So that will show you how big this mold is, okay? So, what you want to do is create little layers. Now I have some like boils in here, so I do want to make sure this does get down into those little crevices. And Again, you don't need it dripping everywhere. I'll probably have to turn the fan off here. See, I need a little over there. Yep, I need a little still there. So, little layers. And then you let it dry in between. Okay, I'll put you there to your new home to make some ugly skin. Okay, so this is how you do liquid latex in a mold. You don't sit there and drown it, you just let it sit. So let me just show you if I can get this to move. Ooh, there we go. Zoom in. So it's not that thick. It looks thick in the crevices, but it's not that bad. Okay, so that's what it looks like. All right, back to the show, right? So we got a little clay over here. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of latex. Now you can go to the craft store, any clay will do. I will say this, as I got the question on Friday, what clay am I using here? All the clay that I personally use is sulfur free, okay? The reason is, when you sculpt something and you go to make a silicone mold, your silicone will not cure, okay? So I naturally just buy those types. I use oil-based clays when I'm doing this work, so that is the case. So that's what this type of clay right here is. It is oil-based clay, cosplastina, and that's what it's called. You can find this at a craft store. And again, I am going to just take, we'll do this bigger one here. You just want to, since we did that one, we're going to do this one. And I'm dabbing just on the wound itself first, and then go lightly on the outside. Now, when you're doing something like this and making prosthetics ahead of time, the edges, you do not want them to be straight. You want them to be irregular, and this is because it is easier to, and it's hard because I have powder there, so I apologize. You want it irregular because it is easier to disguise when you are covering the edges. Okay? So this you're going to let dry. You got to let these dry in between. And in that crevice there. There we go. So these are going to dry. We're going to come back out. And again, all right. See if I can smoothly. Oh, it would help if I don't have that on there. Okay. So we've covered some molds and how to do it with clay. Now we'll do a couple, we gotta wait for those to dry. So we're gonna wait, let those dry, powder them in between, and then we will pull them and I'll show you. Well, they'll be like the ones that I showed you, but those will be good. I do want to pull up this guy over here. This guy was the powdered, well, not powdered, this was the latex paste that I did Friday. Now, this stuff has to dry overnight. This is not a layer thing. This is not a, you're going to have it within the day. This has to sit overnight. But this is a really great way to make prosthetics ahead of time. You want to always powder. I always powder on the top. That's why there's powder everywhere. And powder on the bottom. And if you don't powder, and even if you're careful, sometimes it will roll on itself, which is what it's doing right there. So we want to really powder good. And I will show you what the latex paste prosthetic looks like. Now, get all that powder off of there. So this is what you can make with latex and make prosthetics ahead of time. Now, it's fairly flexible. If it gets really, really thick, it's not going to be as flexible. But this is a latex wound. And you can just, you know, trim, or what I like to do is just pull some of the sides off so it's not straight. Because this is so thin, it will do so. And it will be easier to cover. Alright. So jagged edges like this are so easy, that are thin, easy to cover up. And latex paste, if you have a few gaps, is really easy to cover things. So that is our latex paste wound. We'll make another one, but at least I got to pull this one up for you guys, and you can see what it looks like, and you don't have to wait overnight for it to dry. This is a liquid latex paste wound. Okay, we'll put that away. Now, oops, I'm going to get out some fun things. Let me get the top on this. And I will change the setup, and I'll be right with you guys, because we are going to do some texturing with latex. Okay, so I've done another coat. It's been powdered. And on this one, on the clay, I don't know if you can tell, but you just, since you already did your edges, you just want to go on the wound itself and thicken that part up. So that's where you want to add the latex. You don't necessarily want to add thick edges. So just wanted to give you an update on that. Okay, time to peel this up. Like everything else, powder it, and then lift up an edge. And powder. Lift up and powder. Lift up and powder. Don't need that little bit. Lift up and powder. Okay. Don't need that guy. Lift up and powder. Lift up. You get the deal. Turn the mold. Actually, it would be easier for you guys to see at this angle anyway. Now, that's sticking to the flashing. Again, sticking to the flashing. We don't need that. Voila. You made a prosthetic from latex out of a mold. Okay, so let's move on to the clay mold. Just a tip. So when you get chunks of latex like this, you know, latex sticks to itself. Pull it apart, roll into a little ball, and you have fatty tissue. So don't throw these away. Okay? Tip. This. And if you pull chunks off of it, you get some gnarly things you can use as fatty tissue. Okay. Okay, so I am going to be putting some textures on here, showing you how I made those textures. And things that I have, liquid latex. It's what we're playing with today. I got some powder. I got flour. Now you don't have to have rice flour. Different flours too make all different types of skins, like pores almost. This almost looks like alien skin. Corn flour looks really gritty. It would be good for kind of a lizard thing. But experiment with different flours. You can definitely use all-purpose flour. Oatmeal. This is regular oatmeal. Coffee. Cotton. And red yarn. Okay. Now, let's see here. We're going to take a little bit. You want to have your sponges nearby because you're going to need that. Okay. Your sponges. Whichever one you want to do first. Now, I like the coffee. The coffee really does give a good scabby look to it. Road rash, like an old scab bit. So what you want to do is start with some liquid latex. You don't need a lot to start with. You're just putting down a base for it to stick on. And I just let the coffee go wherever it goes. Okay? You can, you know, if there are really big bits, like this one here, pull that one out. Pull that one out. Those are little. Okay. I apologize if you can hear the birds are going nuts tonight. Okay. So wherever you want that to go, you put it down. Again, liquid latex. The liquid latex over the coffee. Make sure you blend some edges. Okay. And that doesn't look like much now, but I'm telling you, when you add, especially because coffee is brown already, when you put red on this, it really looks like it's ironed out blood, which, you know, blood has iron in it, and it is a little bit yellowish tone to it. So you have this undertone when you add the red to it, where it makes it look very realistic. And as little as that, you know, it doesn't look like a big deal. Put those ones on there. You're gonna be a part of that prosthetic. Go be with your new family. All right, so that's gonna be the scabby road rash, big scab. Let's say this one goes on your knee, right? That's what you want to do for that. Probably the most traditional thing that you'll see is people doing rotting skin with oatmeal. So let's do that. Put a little oatmeal over here. If you're having your breakfast, you know, dab a little oatmeal on your latex. Okay. Ooh, the sounds. Sorry, I know that's probably gross. Anyway, we're on a gross channel, so what do you expect? Now I take my oatmeal and I like to kind of not just keep it whole, but have a lot of different, you know, some big ones and little ones. Go be a part of this. There you go. All right. And you guessed it, we're going to take latex and put it right on over this. So, let's get some latex and put it over the oatmeal. And the oatmeal's a little trickier, but once you get it to kind of, there you go. And, well, and it's starting to dry. We will use our spatula. So if you find stuff isn't going where you want it to, just place it where you want. Okay. And I might do another little bit on the edge there, around it, because oatmeal is chunky. I'm going to do that. Okay. Yeah. So there's our oatmeal. And again, if you want to push, you don't like where it's at, just push it around where you want it. Okay. And you can spread it out more. You know, have some pieces over here. Bigger chunks over here. And that's kind of a good rotting skin. Now, when your sponge starts to look like this from creating textures, get rid of it. It's not going to do you any good, okay? It's just going to get in the other prosthetics. So put that in the rubbish bin. Now, red yarn. What you want to do, go to the craft store, dollar store, get some yarn. What you want to do is spray it. Take it, pull it apart, get it as thin as you can when it does these little, can you see, am I even in the, oh no. You see the little hairs? They're really fine. That's what you want. So you want to just pull this apart. And it's really cool when you get like yarn like this that has the curled to it, because veins are like that. They're not straight. So pull them apart. And it's okay if you have some bigger bits. That makes out for some really cool wounds. So you just want to pull this apart. Okay? So now we are going to do veins. Let's do some veins over here. And again, this dries, the base dries really quickly, so you do have to work quite quickly. Now let's get a really fine guy in there. You can get a fatty in there and let's pull them apart right here. Make around a wound. Let's do that. Use our little spatula to stick it down. Okay. And the spatula is going to want to stick. So let me put some Vaseline on it. That will be on the inside. Okay. Let's get some really, really fine ones around it. So. Okay, there we go. Now, what we want to do, again, top it off with a little bit of latex. And the yarn's going to move around a little bit, so just tap it and let it go where it kind of organically wants to go. You might find some difficult pieces that just want to stay up, but once you get it saturated, it's like cotton where you can kind of mold it wherever you want to, put it. Okay. Make sure the little fine hairs are down. And then if you really want, you can go in, take a spatula, take a toothpick, whatever you want, and really move it around, make it, like I said, veins are not straight at all. They don't. I want to make that there, kind of chunky. Make a hollow part where you could have like a bone or something. But you can see where you've got a lot of squiggly veins now. And even with little work. So. And I think it's creepier when you see the veins and they have squiggles to them as well. So these are really effective wounds to do with yarn. It's kind of like rigid collodion where you have a really high impact wound. Now we're going to move on to actually playing with cotton. This is one of my favorite, right next along to the latex paste. But what you want to do is just regular cotton ball, pull it apart. See how it has these little fine fibers. You just want to pull it apart. You don't want the cotton really thick. You got a lot of cotton in a cotton ball, by the way. Okay, that's probably all I'm going to need. Again, our base layer. So let's take our latex, do a base layer. All right. Make thin edges. Okay. And I want to take this, because it's a really cool round area. We'll do that. Put that down on the base and save this because again, this can be molded. Let's do a good chunky bit right there as well. Okay. Now, the cotton does need to get saturated just like the yarn did. It takes it a little bit, so I always give it a little extra liquid latex. But once you get the cotton it will almost look like it's shrinking. Okay. There we go. Get this guy down here. And this one you kind of got to work quick with because that base layer will. Okay. If you want, you can put this in a bowl, saturate it. You can pour it on it. It just takes time. But once you, again, saturate the whole cotton, this you now can mold like paper mache. You can tear it open, have flappy skin. I mean, it's very effective. You see right now how you just got, I mean, it looks like you just, something just came out of your, whether leg or arm or whatever. Another thing, if you have, you know, the spatulas, take your edges, smooth them down. Okay. You see how that edge is gone and it looks more like it's part of skin. And it's not just, ooh. You know, with the exit one you would have that, but you can create really thin edges with just it being wet. Okay, you can even tear it. But again, we're going to give this a really funky torn skin look. And then I want to calm that down there. I'm going to create some lines. Now, when you are working with this and as it's drying, it will get to a stage where right now it's very liquidy. If I waited a little bit, I can actually, oh, it's actually right now it's starting to gel. So let me see if I can. All right. So you see how when I pull this out of there, it's leaving that indent. Once it gets to that point where it gels, you can do that. You can leave like really cool. Now if you want something to look more holy or meaty. So that's how you use this with cotton. And it's completely, you can see, I've made masks out of this technique. It's really, really fun. So this one, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna leave those, but that's how you create different textures and everything, play with everything. You know, like I said, try different textures and go into your kitchen and start experimenting. This stuff is really fun to see what, and this is how you learn from other makeup artists. You know, this scab trick right here. I like this and dehydrated onions. I don't have any dehydrated onions right now, but close up on that. Can you zoom out? There we go. I really like dehydrated onions as well. I don't have any here, so I can't show you that. And I don't use them that often, but they make really good oozy fresh scabs that you got wet. That's another good one. But these are some textures that you can play with. And again, in your kitchen, just pull stuff out and start to have fun with it. So these are the textures. We're going to let these dry. You want to powder this before you even do anything with these. These you can save and put them on the skin and make these ahead of time. So like these we could pull up, like, you know, I showed you in the beginning, the latex paste one. You can make these ahead of time. You got a movie and no budget. Flour's really cheap. You can get a 5-pound bag for really cheap. You know, so if the latex is the only thing, that's the most expensive thing. But you can make a lot of these. You can make a lot of these. And if you have very, very thin edges, it is so easy to cover. And this is just really fun to see what people come up with, and you learn from other people. Well, hey, what textures do you create? So this is latex, creating latex textures. Zoom out here. Okay. So next we are going to be doing latex paste. Now before I give you guys the recipe, I'm going to explain. The recipe I have is 2 parts latex and, get this out of the picture, 1 part flour. Now, why do I give it to you in parts and not just say, hey, use a 1/2 cup this, use a 1/2 cup that? I do this so that you guys can create small batches like I'm about to do today, because I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. This liquid latex paste, it does not keep well. So you can't make this, put it into a container and come back to it later. Okay? So whatever you make, you need to use it kind of right away. If you need a gallon of this, you will know how to make a gallon. If you need a small batch like I'm going to do today, you will know how to do that. And all you have to do, what does a part mean? This is where a lot of people kind of get upset with me and say, hey, 1 part. So today, I'm taking my flour and I am going to be doing a 1/4 teaspoon. This is very small, right? Okay. 1/4 teaspoon. Okay. That's a very small amount. Liquid latex. So this is 1 part. Whatever you're doing, whether it's a 1/2 cup or a 1/4 teaspoon, that is 1 part. Because your latex is 2 parts, you want 2 of what you used here. Okay? So since we did a 1/4, we're going to do, for the liquid latex, a 1/4 teaspoon twice. Oops. That's a little more than a 1/4. All right, we're good. Okay. Now, this will depend on how humid your place is. You may need more, you may need less. So I will show you the consistency. But now you know how to make any size of batch that you need. 2 parts latex, 1 part flour. And takes a while to incorporate. Now it does get lumpy if you add too fast at a time of flour. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, but it is moldable. All right, so we're going to put that on our plate. Bring our plate over here. Now, when you're working with this, you want to keep your tools and your fingers covered with latex. And why is that? Because, well, you are going to need to keep them lubricated. Otherwise, your fingers are going to stick to the paste. The paste is going to stick to you. So, you want to keep everything you're working with pretty lubricated. Okay. All right. So there's that. I'm going to set that aside. Clean your instruments if you're working with them. All right. And I'm going to be, number 1, I'll show my fingers because most people will be working with their fingers. So you just want to coat your finger so it doesn't stick, and you can start, I'd start to do the outside where you're going to have your edges. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to start to use, well, I'm going to start to use a spatula, and I'm going to, this is, there we go, kind of like the cotton. However, this is definitely more liquidy paste. So it's going to take you a little while to, for it to kind of get to what I call, again, that gelling stage, right? So let's do this. But you have more time to work with it. And there we go. Make that come out more. I don't need such a big, high, wounds aren't too high. All right. So, but you do have a long time to kind of work with it, which is nice. You can sit there and say, I don't like this. And even when it's kind of drying, if you rehydrate your finger, you can mold it to whatever. But, okay, it's getting windy here. Those are some cards, I apologize. But you can, say you really want to do a meaty, there you go, blown out. You can do that. You can, again, re-sculpt it for quite a while. So it is up to you for whatever you want to do. Get something interesting going. I'm going to clean up those edges. Clean this away. Put that in there. Make it all chunky. Get some really like pox. There we go. So you can keep going with that. But this is liquid latex paste. And you can add those textures to this. So let's say you wanted to add some yarn. You could add some yarn. You could add any texture to this. That's not a problem. Now again, this is starting to dry. If I want to play with it, just add some. There we go. So this is the liquid paste. And oh, it's kind of blown out, huh? There. So I could keep going and going and going with this, and I won't, because this is going to be a long video to begin with. But you got to let this dry overnight in order to have your prosthetics. So now you know how to do liquid latex paste. This can be, you can do cuts. If you do cuts, you do have to wait till it kind of gets to that gelling phase. Let's see. You know, this is dried a little bit, so you can get a cut in there. And again, maybe a little cut here. You can do a straight cut like that. So this is really, really good to do. Now, if you use a very, and I mean a very small amount, not thick on the skin, it will dry in time for, let's say you just want to create a small cut on your skin. You can use this, but if it is thick, it will stay wet. So I'm talking thin as these edges here, it can be very effective. And you can dry it with a hair dryer on the cool setting. But if it's thick like this, it's going to stay liquidy and it's not going to dry. So this is liquid paste. Again, it's 2 parts latex, however big of a batch you want to make it, to 1 part flour. Always coat your finger or whatever tool you're using in latex. And if it looks way too lumpy, add more latex to it. So this, have fun with it. Okay, so we have our latex pieces that we've made. Get that out of the way. Our latex paste is still wet underneath. But I will show you now that it's kind of dried and you can see kind of the color and the detail. This is what the latex paste wound looks like. I will be undoing this one tomorrow. Okay, and here, move that one out of the way. Here are the textures that we made, if you remember right. Cotton, oatmeal, the coffee, and the yarn. And this is what they look like that we just did today. close here so you can see. That's the cotton, the yarn, the oatmeal, and the coffee. Okay, so now I'm going to be taking the coffee one, the pre-made one that we did, and I'm going to be putting it on one of these on the skin to show you guys, and then I will create some textures on my skin with these techniques so you can see. Okay, start peeling this up. This is the wound I'm going to use. Stuck to the other one. Okay. Oops. There we go. Okay. I'm going to take that part off of there. Okay. I'm just taking the really damaged ends off. Like the dangly bit. Okay. Now, I'm going to start with some liquid latex. Put some on my skin. Let's see where you guys can see it right here. And again, like when we were creating it on the plexiglass, or I've got a storm rolling in, I apologize if you can hear that. Okay, I'm gonna lay this down. Start in the middle. Now, I'm going to cover the edges. And it looks really white right now because I've just powdered it with baby powder. And that's what baby powder looks like when you don't use translucent powder. So, go around the edges with the liquid latex to blend the edges of your pre-made prosthetic. And you don't want it huge. You know, you want it just so it blends with the skin. You don't want chunks. And you want to do a stippling motion because it will leave more skin-like texture. You know, your skin's not smooth, it has pores. So we go around. Here we go. Got 1 inch more to go, right here. Alright, that's going to dry. Let's do a little bit while we're doing some texture here. Since we put down our pre-made prosthetic, I'm going to do a little thing on the side here too, the other one. Remember, not a lot, there's not a lot there. And I'm going to go in with some coffee. There's nothing wrong with it getting on the other one. Okay. Okay. That's some coffee. Some of that down so we don't lose a whole lot of it. Okay. Take another small little sponge because this one's going to get nasty. Get a little more latex. Stipple that right on the coffee like we did with the last stuff. If you want to come over here, okay. I want to add a little, I want to make it a little more scabbier. So I'm going to layer some more coffee here. Latex. Okay, so there's that. Now, to make it really interesting, we can put a little dab of latex right here for a second. And a good way to add some texture too and some fun stuff is I always carry bugs. I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to put a little oatmeal here. So we show all the textures that we did. Dab it over the oatmeal. sure if it's a big thick oatmeal, it has stuff underneath holding it. Okay. Now, I like to add, just for some fun, maggots. I carry around a stack like this in my special effects kit. I have some maggots. I found these in the fishing aisle. Some spiders. Kept wax cord. This makes great stitches. And of course, the red yarn. Now, we're not going to keep this maggot whole. We're going to give it a nice little cutty cut and pull them apart. You have a maggot coming out of your wound. Let's put them right here by the rotting skin. And then we can put another one right there. You could also take, so you got some maggots coming out. Let's say you could have one crawling, you don't have to cut them in half. You know, you could do something like that and have one laying across. Okay? So you do whatever you feel like suits you. Now, we gotta go let this dry. And so this is a pre-made wound that you've added some textures to. And it's going to be very effective. And honestly, you're not going to know there's a lot. You know, someone's not going to go, oh my gosh. It's really effective. Now you can also, if you want to really, you can make some holes in here. If you want. You know, it's the famous zombie skin tear up and do a wound there. But this in itself will be very effective. I'm going to let this dry, and then we will come back and put some makeup on it. So here is our wound dried, not powdered. Okay. That's a good close-up of it. Look how nasty this veins look. Okay. A little tacky yet, but once we put powder over it, it'll be good. I wanted to get you guys a good close-up of come on, focus. There we go. And the maggots. Do 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 do. Alright, so we got some maggots coming out, we got some maggots chilling, and some nasty ass veins. And look at that texture once we cover that up with some makeup. Pretty. Okay, let's get some makeup on this. Okay, so let's throw some powder on that. Take a little bit of the shine away. You want to be gentle, you don't want to scrub it. Dab it on first, lightly. You don't want to put so much on there. Okay. So, A lot of the shininess has gone away. You're going to have some shine. Now, the really cool thing about the brown is that blood naturally has irony look to it. And when you put red over it, it really looks realistic. So, good trick. This is my cream wheel I'm going to be using. Sorry, this is the, is it upside down? It's upside down, huh? Ah, there you go. This is the Ben Nye Special Effects Master Bruise Wheel. Okay. Now, good trick. We're going to take, I'm going to go with some red colors here. There's a, oops. That's a bruise color, purple, it's like a blood red, green, and that's a purpley blue. I'm going to go with the straight red color, this one right here, and I'm going to take a little bit of alcohol, 70% alcohol, and I'm going to take a little bit of this, and you don't need a lot. There's not a lot on there. You don't need a lot. I'm going to do this on the back of the lid. A little bit of alcohol. I'm going to get it on my brush. Okay, and then I'm going to take that, water down that a little bit, and what it's going to do is we're going to work in layers, and it's going to look more realistic because it's going to be a bit transparent. So I'm going to put some redness, and I'm not going to do it everywhere. I think that's where people kind of go wrong, is they put it every single place. So I'm doing it right where the rot skin is. Okay. And grab some alcohol. Work in some layers. Can you see the red? A little bit. And we're going to really water it down, because we're going to take take a piece of your sponge, really small one, and it's going to create texture. Get your sponge, dip that in the alcohol, and you don't want a lot. You really do want it watered down, because we're going to go around the edges to make it a little irritated. So it looks pink and tender, but not. Okay. see how those edges are getting redder down here? And you want them inconsistent. You don't want them completely red everywhere. Like it should be splotchy looking. Okay. Get that around this little maggot here. And I'm going to take a smaller brush. Around that maggot. Because your skin would not be happy if the maggot was coming out of it, right? Okay, so we got some tenderness around here. Alright. Some splotchy redness. Okay. Now we're going to move on to getting a little bit of a deeper color. I'm going to take a little bit of the bruised tone. More alcohol to water it down. Now I'm just going to use that same sponge. To water down that bruised tone. Hope you can see that. I'm starting to blend. The edge is kind of going away because your wound's there and it's irritated. So and don't feel bad about going onto the wound. You can go onto the wound as well. You see now how your edges are disappearing because you're blending that wound in. Okay, a little more. So layer by layer is the key to really getting something to blend and look good. I want to go in with some more color. See, it's starting to look like a really hot mess, huh? Okay, maybe we'll get to make him stand out a little more. Now, if you feel like you've gotten, I'm sliding on this fabric. If you feel like you've gotten somewhere too dark, go in with some alcohol. And thin it out. Okay? So, we could keep going with this if we wanted. But this is a good place because I could keep going. This is where you know, it could keep going. Let's see. So, I hope you guys had fun with me tonight. I hope I'd like to do more of the creative stuff like this. I'm gonna take a little green and yellow, make that infected. Okay, so we got a nice little okay. There is our wound that we created from doing textures using latex and building up on it. So this is a good way to get ahead of the ball game. Make some stuff pre-made and add on to it using all these different textures. So let me put that away. Now, of course, we use cream makeup, and you always want a powder. So I'm going to grab some powder. Give it a nice little powder here. Okay. And you just created a nice, nasty, gory wound. Bring in a little bit more. If you really want to bring out the veins a lot more, if you take that blue color really lightly, you can go on some veins and bring out some of the veins with the blue color. Let's get another vein here. You see how now your veins are kind of coming out, and don't do it all in the same. Like pick your brush up. Don't do it all in one. Don't make it completely. Just do it in some spots, because the vein does a lot of the work for you. Okay. So now we've got a pretty nasty, ugly, disgusting thing on your leg here. All right. Fun with latex. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Come out here for a little bit. There's the wound. And I hope you guys enjoyed. So as promised, I said I would show you these things and tell you what they're about. So these right now are, I'm working on some zombie hands. It'd be great if I could get out of the way, not create a shadow, but that just is not happening. So if Zombie Run doesn't happen this year, I am going to be fabulous next year, but I really wanted to give that old school comic book. If you ever read comic books with zombies in them, there's lots of textures and holes and rotting skin. And that's really what I was going for. So there's that. And I find it really hard for me having very small hands. For reference, and this is the bigger bottle of Excedrin, right? And my hands are very small compared to it. So it's very hard for me to find stuff in monster hands, but this is going to be for a zombie run. I have some things I need to mold here for Phantom of the Opera, a gnarly head wound, and I'm working on a pretty cool scar that I'm going to be doing for a superhero run. So again, I'll go over the sculptures. And again, I always just go and sculpt on plexiglass because A, it's easy, you can mold a whole lot at once. Those were for today. And these are all the same clay, it's just different colors. And then the zombie hands. So that was what I wanted to show you guys on my other projects that I'm doing. Alright, stay creepy, guys. Alright guys, I hope you really enjoyed that and learned a little something from the video. And at least this time you guys can actually hear and see the video and learn from it. So I hope you guys are doing wonderful wherever you are in the world and have fun creating some weird creatures, oozy bruises and wounds and cuts and all those fun things. Alright guys, take care.